Hello everyone, this video is about the biggest changes that are happening in the world right now. First, let's talk about the economic impact of COVID-19. The short-term share of credit by foreign banks, a key indicator of external vulnerability, is high for some emerging market and developing economy borrowers. In addition, substantial variations could be expected among national banking systems in their reactions to a global financial shock triggered by the pandemic. And the prospects of aviation worldwide have taken a dramatic turn for the worse, with rapid and drastic declines in air travel demand amplified by stringent travel restrictions. The employment impacts of COVID-19 are deep, far-reaching and unprecedented. The employment drop implies that numerous workers around the world are facing or will face a loss of income, in many cases leading them and their families to deeper poverty. And closure of borders, travel bans and quarantine measures in many countries directly affects the tourism sector, arguably like no other. The impact is particularly critical on territories that are heavily dependent on international tourism. Now let's talk about the social impacts. Low-income countries prone to rises in the triple burden of malnutrition due to pandemic-induced income shocks, while disruptions to global supply chains and labor shortages pose uncertainties for agricultural production, and developing countries less equipped to use ICTs to minimize disruption caused by coronavirus. The COVID-19 pandemic is a public health emergency impacting civil, cultural, economic, political, and social rights. It's a test of our society's resilience. Respect for human rights will be fundamental to the success of our responses and recovery. Nationwide closures of schools and universities in 192 countries because of the COVID-19 pandemic have disrupted the education of nearly 1.6 billion learners, or 90% of the world's student population. In the longer term, prolonged absence from school is associated with lower retention and graduation rates and worse learning outcomes. The evidence of climate change is all around us. Everyday news stories and scientific studies power in documenting impacts of climate change we are already experiencing. The message is clear: climate change is not an abstract problem for the future. Climate change is happening now, we are causing it, and the longer we wait to act, the more we lose and the more difficult the problem will be to solve. Polar bears are starving and drowning, and Antarctic penguins face a diminished food supply as the sea ice melts beneath them. Coral reefs are suffering massive die-offs as ocean waters become too warm. Here you can see some of the problems of climate change. As you know, the temperatures are rising. Extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, and blizzards are striking with increased frequency, with sometimes deadly consequences for people and wildlife. Millions of people are suffering from climate-related health impacts. Many animals and plants are losing their habitats and food sources, struggling to move poleward and upward to keep pace with climate change, shifting the timing of their breeding and migration, and disappearing as populations die out. The oceans have become 30% more acidic due to their uptake of human-produced carbon dioxide. Climate change is reducing food security as crop growth and yields diminish. The world's ice is rapidly melting away, raising sea levels, threatening water supplies, and jeopardizing ice-dependent animals like the polar bear.